Alright guys, here's how to use mindfulness to create peace in any situation, no matter what you're in. And the trick is don't get sucked into the software program within us. There's like two identities we have. One is us, which is the real identity, and then there's like a fake identity, which is like a software program. And this software program is it's just a bunch of ideas. It's an ideas based identity which is constructed out of thoughts, and these thoughts got compiled since we were young, and that's what makes up this pseudo identity. But whenever there's any disturbance whatsoever, look closely. Only but always there's identification with the pseudo identity, which is this thought based cloud of ideas. It's not a real identity. It's only the pseudo identity that's subject to disturbance, but the real identity of us is incapable of disturbance. So when we're relaxed, this is sort of evidence that we're not identifying or mistaking the pseudo identity as who we are. We temporarily forget these ideas and thoughts, and then we somewhat return back to our normal identity, which is it doesn't need any thoughts. It's the awareness of thoughts. So you can call it like it doesn't have any content to it. It's contentless. And the software program, that's full of content, and it's content that's never-endingly being upgraded every week. It's like it's getting more upgrades than your mobile phone. So imagine, like you can sort of picture it when you were 1 year old. You didn't really have this software program developed yet, and obviously because you don't know language really yet. So in order to have the software program, first you must learn language, and then you use these language to composite ideas. And then when you get to 3 years old, it's still not really developed yet. 7 years old, it's kind of developed a little bit, or somewhat developed. And then you can imagine that when you're 15 years old, what type of ideas and thoughts construct in this cloud of software ideas, identity. And we're like the eye, the witness that's looking at this cloud of ideas here. So it's only when we mistake the cloud of ideas as us, and then we assume its disturbance to be our disturbance. So that's something to look into. Whenever there's any disturbance, it's because we're identifying with this cloud of ideas. We're forgetting that we are the witness, the observer to the idea. We're not an idea. Our thought is, our thoughts and ideas are just thoughts and ideas. And they're subject to endless distortion. And all the thoughts and ideas are just that, thoughts and ideas. So don't mistake the thoughts and ideas as you. And look closely. Whenever there's a disturbance, there's always this character, this software. And notice how it changes over the years. Every week it's getting upgraded. The 20-year-old software identity, the 30-year-old software identity, the 40-year-old, and it's got a story which consists of thoughts and ideas and a narrative, and then it has thoughts about others in relation to itself, and it creates all these levels of comparison and becomes less than and more than, and that's where the element of disturbance comes in. The thoughts are never endingly going to be disturbed because it is just thoughts. And ultimately, if you really step back, the core reason to disturbance is because you're forgetting who you are. It's like you're getting zapped, and that's what causes disturbance. So really, that's the ultimate message behind a disturbance, is you're identifying with a software program as you, as a thought as you, and you're not realizing yourself as the awareness, which consists of no thoughts. It's got no content to it. It's kind of like when you're a baby, you're the consciousness and the awareness, and you don't have any thoughts and content added to itself yet. But So you're not really fully awake yet because you don't know yourself as that awareness yet. So um, anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, take note on that. Anytime there's a disturbance, only but always there's us mistaking this thought-based identity as who we are. And also, yeah, in spiritual terms, this thought-based identity is called the ego, which is a pseudo-identity. So, um, yeah, and if you really, some hacks to undo this pseudo-identity is just observe it with a distinguishment and discernment between you and it, and this helps untangle it. The more you see the software program as just a software program, the more you see the impersonalness of it, um, the more you don't take it seriously, the software program, the more you recognize yourself as the awareness of it, and distinguish and discern between the difference between the two. This helps you sort of become free from the assumption that we are this software program. And then when you don't have this you don't mistake this software program as you anymore, less and less you experience disturbances. And if you're really lucky, you'll have a full enlightenment experience. That happened to me a long time ago, but it only lasted 1.5 days. And it was a feeling like you lose 1,000,000 kilos in an instant. I was having like I was waking up at about 6 in the morning. I was having this dream, and I saw that software program identity is not me fully and clearly. And then as I was waking up, that software program disappeared, and 1,000,000 kilos left me. That's what it felt like. And it's like it's a level of peace. First of all, the feeling you get is like you've returned back to normal. But it's what you experience when you're enlightened. It's a feeling of peace. That's it's, that's better than 1,000,000 times an orgasm. So it's got nothing to do with sex and orgasm. It's a feeling of peace that's so beautiful and feeling that it's 1,000,000 times an orgasm, and it's constant. But I'm not making references. Maybe in my past videos I've made references as if it's something to do with sexuality, but it's not. It's a peaceful feeling, and it's so amazing, the peaceful feeling. But again, that's in the perspective of where we're living now. Through this constant identification, we're almost in a constant identification with this software program. So yeah, when full disidentification from the software happens, then that's called enlightenment. And then you return back to the normal state, which is this peaceful. But yeah, through the perspective of the way we are now, it looks amazing and peaceful, this enlightenment experience, but it's not. It's actually just normal reality, our normal self. But it's in the contrast of this constant disturbing software getting zapped all the time through identification and misinterpreting the software program as us. And we're so used to that zapping and never-ending disturbance and roller coaster every day, that enlightenment seems amazing, but it's not amazing. Hang on, just pause it a sec. Oh yeah, that's what I wanted to say. And this software program, another thing that I experienced, like this happened about 10 years ago, this enlightenment experience. So the first thing you experience is 1,000,000 kilograms gets lifted in an instant. So it feels like you're being squashed your whole life, and with this never-ending disturbance feeling, and that all disappears, and there's no more disturbance anymore. So you're incapable of being disturbed. But also every single activity you realize when enlightenment happens, all this activity that goes on in your mind, that's all the software program. So whatever is speaking, here's a very telltale sign as well. I had this sort of realization a few days ago that the software program is always mentioning, it has a dialogue that consists of me and others, always. and ultimately, um, there's only one single consciousness in this realm that we're in, and we are that one single consciousness. So there is no me and others. There's no two. There's no duality. There's just one single consciousness, and we are that one single consciousness. And you can't even use that language because I've just used the word we, which assumes as two. So there's no language you can use to describe this oneness. I can just say it in normal ways by saying that we are the, again, duality, but yeah, we are the consciousness. There's only one single consciousness, and that consciousness doesn't have any content to it, doesn't need any content to it. It's ever perfect, ever immaculate, ever untouchable. And the reason why it's all of those elements is because it doesn't have any content. It's only things that are subject to content, which is the software program, which is subject to being deleted, subtracted, added upon, uh, diminished, whatever. And through those contrasts of content variations, then the experience of a disturbance and being less than takes an expression of that content based realm. But in the content-less realm, which is what consciousness is just it's life itself, it's awareness, it's the seer of content, but it itself is not content. So it's hard to picture your mind around that, what I'm describing there. It's the seer of the content, it's the witness of the content, but you've got to sort of visualize what is this witness of the content within yourself. And so everything that's talking in you, there's no more talking when there's enlightenment. It stops all of that. And there's definitely no dialogue of references and speaking of yourself being a me, and this speaking of others. So this dialogue, when it speaks about me and others, there's so much unlimited stories that generate this disturbance from these stories. But ultimately, the core of the disturbance comes when you believe the story and you don't see it as just a story, as just a thought. So if you see the thought as just a thought, it has no effect on you. It's just seen as just a thought, it's neutral. And many thoughts pass through our consciousness every day that we don't fuse our identity with. Therefore, we don't create corresponding disturbances to. So it's only those bundle of thoughts. There's a certain bundle that have a me investment, and that me is ultimately just a software program. Consciousness doesn't need to be an individual or a me. It's ever perfect, ever immaculate, and ever untouchable. So I'm not using these words lightly just to make things sound glamorous, but they are the fundamental aspects of our consciousness. When you're enlightened, it's incomprehensible to be disturbed. It's impossible to be disturbed because you're not a content based object, subject to be broken and manipulated and touched. All of that is in an impossibility. That's why we are those three elements. Okay, I think that's it for today's message. Thank you. Have a good day or night.